today in Rich in Relationship. We're going to talk about
What happens when you feel like you're doing everything right? You've built a great life, but something's not quite right. Something's hollow on the inside. I'm successful at work, but at home, I feel like I'm failing. Why can't I carry both? We focus on being successful in the world, but we start to lose our spontaneity. We start to lose our passion. We start to prioritize the logistics of life over love. Welcome to another episode of Rich in Relationship. I am your host, Rich Heller, and today we're talking about when success hides the strain. Identity, intimacy, and power, baby. That's what I'm talking about. And let's open up with a listener question. We built a great life, so why do I feel like I'm losing myself in it? And I actually got to say, this episode has huge and deep meaning for me personally. I changed my whole life, sold a successful business, and moved into the work that I'm doing now. Not directly, it took time, but made the decision that what was working really wasn't working because it felt hollow. It felt strained. It felt like something was missing, so that I could find what would work. And this episode is all about a process I know very intimately. And I had built a great life, just like this female listener. I had built a great life. This is Alexis. I had built a great life, and I felt totally lost. I had all the outward markers. Today, I'm not wearing any outward markers. I'm wearing a t-shirt today because I wanted to get across that the outward markers don't mean anything except in a certain context, right? And here on Rich in Relationship, we're about relationships. We're about the inner markers. That's what we're talking about today. So the outward markers of success are career growth. I had a growing and successful business that was doing all the right things. We were designing, creating sustainable landscapes, sustainable rooftops. We were pioneering green roofs at a time when there were no green roofs. There was kind of some glory in it and a feeling of being a pioneer, right? And that was supposed to be fulfilling. Kids were growing up. They were doing well in school. My wife had launched a successful business, and we were actually sort of in a competition for who could be most successful. She won that one in the end, and I'll tell you more about that as we move through this. And there were these inner struggles that weren't being spoken. There I was striving to get more, better, different. And I thought I was doing everything I was supposed to. I was on a mission. I was showing up for my family. I was developing company culture. But there was one person I wasn't showing up for, and actually two. First, there was this voice saying, hey, this is not it. And it kept bothering me. It was niggling at me. And then there was this other experience of my wife and I. She was launched a successful business. I had my successful business. We were in the successful family. And I was like, this isn't what I signed up for. Not the success part, but we were kind of in our own worlds more and more. She was in her work world and I was in my work world, only focusing on the kids and not so much on each other. And those inner struggles, they were not finding expression anywhere. The only way that the frustrations and struggles would find expression would be in snarky remarks from time to time, or little passive-aggressive acts on our part. And to the world, we gave this image of we're fine. And actually, it's only now, 7 or 8 years later, that my wife looks back and says, wow, we're doing things so differently. We're doing things so right today. Not that we were doing them wrong then, but there was definitely something missing that we both didn't know what it was. And we had this illusion. We had the big house. We had nice cars. We had kids who looked like they were successful and thriving. And if they weren't, we could blame it on those other parents. We were both on a mission. I was on a mission to drive sustainability in the ecology and people's lives through landscapes and through rooftop gardens, through green roofs. I built the biggest green roof at the time in New York. It was a huge accomplishment. It was written up in the New York Times kind of thing. That was for me, to have my company written up in the New York Times, that was like the crowning gem, right? And she was teaching people how to do collaborative law and mediation, and she was becoming a respected leader in her community. Like, this was supposed to be our glory time. And yet something was missing. Joanne writes, I'm successful at work, but at home, I feel like I'm failing. Why can't I carry both? And Joanne, I'm going to tell you that we felt like we were failing. I mean, I don't know about her. I felt like we were failing at home. And yet, we were intimate and we had time together. It was mostly work related, mostly helping each other with work. There was something desperately, desperately missing. It's because we were following certain scripts. I was following the script of being the provider. I wanted to double my business. I was getting coached to triple my business. Spent a lot of money on this coach, and she was also growing her business, but she was supporting the kids emotionally. And the work she was doing was very much about collaborative law and mediation, very much about getting involved with people on an emotional level, even though it's law, which is very unusual. We were leaning into the cultural lessons we had been given. And I think what was happening is that success in one area of our life can mask erosion of self in another. And the thing that was happening there for me, I can't speak for my wife, was I had lost my sense of self in our relationship. I had lost my sense of self in our family. I later found out that years later, one of my daughters told me that at that time she had been sexually abused. She was just getting ready to leave high school. And I couldn't believe that I had missed this at that time. I remember noticing it and thinking, oh, well, she's 17. And she didn't recognize it as abuse until years later. And it's because I was checked out. And my wife missed it too. We missed that this was happening. We weren't connected in a way that today we are with our children. My daughter came and told me this years later as part of her healing process, is a testimony to the safety we've created in our family since then. I was a successful dad, but I felt irrelevant at home. And my wife was a high-achieving mom, but she was really invisible as a woman to me, not as someone who I had physical interaction with from time to time under the sheets, but I don't think I really honored her as a woman. There's a stat on this that says that nearly 40% of married adults say they feel they've lost a part of themselves in their marriage. And I'm wondering, as you listen to this, are you one of the 40% that feels they've lost themselves in their marriage, like I was? Or is it possible that almost all marriages go through a time like this, and that when the stat is created, it just happens to be that about 40% at a time are in that stage? It's a really interesting question. We have everything we need, but I cannot remember the last time we really connected. Is that normal, says Esther. And yes, Esther, sadly, it is normal. Sadly, the norm is for us to scrape, struggle, fight, work hard so that we can have what we need on the material plane, and we do it at the expense of our relationship connection, and often we do it at the expense of our own sense of purpose. And the way that happens is that we have children, and that puts a huge financial strain and emotional strain on us because there's no amount of training that can fully prepare us for that. It's a big growth step. And we're struggling. Both parents are tag team wrestling, trying to get the kids fed and cared for and get the bills paid and get to work and take care of the business of life. And as they do that, like any tag team wrestler, it's very rare that both wrestlers are in the ring together. Mostly it's one in and then the other, while one's resting, and then the other gets tagged in while the first one rests. And this turns into a pattern where once children start becoming more mobile and self-managing, let's say, they're going to school, they have daycare, et cetera, they're less dependent on the parents. Rather than refocus on the relationship, the parents go, oh, yeah, now I can get back to growing in work because we need more money. I need to become successful in my job. And we start to lose our sense of purpose at work. We become focused on the next raise or the next thing instead of, is this really fulfilling me? And I'm telling you, this is what happened for me. I was an entrepreneur and I'm focused on what's the next phase for my business instead of, hey, even though this business has a mission, even though I'm enjoying the cultural interactions, even though I like my clients, even though a lot of this agrees with me in principle, something's missing for me. There's a piece of me missing in this work that I'm doing. I didn't even notice that. Like so many people, I was like, all right, got to make more, got to do better. Got to be different. Compete, 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 compete. And my wife was going through very much the same thing. We focus on being successful in the world, but we start to lose our spontaneity. We start to lose our passion. We start to prioritize logistics, the logistics of life over love. Not that love isn't there, but we're not working love like a muscle. Love is a muscle. Great that love is there, but we need to take time working on our relationship, just like we take time going to the gym, just like we take time exercising our minds. That isn't happening in this situation. You get so focused on having all the things that we're told we need to be successful that we lose sight of the relationship. And there's that hidden strain we've been talking about. And we get comfortable, not even good comfortable. It's kind of like, we're in this uncomfortable situation where we're on the treadmill of materialism and we're uncomfortable because something's missing, but we get comfortable with that discomfort. It's the wrong kind of comfort with discomfort, right? The comfort with discomfort we're meant to develop is like gym time. I don't really want to work out today. I'm uncomfortable with it, but I'm going to go. I'm going to get comfortable with going and doing it anyway because I know afterwards I'm going to feel good. I'm going to get comfortable with being uncomfortable with having date night. When we go to date night and agree that we're not going to talk about work, my wife and I started doing that at the point that I transitioned, we started doing that. We are not going to talk about work. It was so uncomfortable because all we ever did was talk about work. All we ever did was get in each other's corners and help each other build up their businesses. And I sold mine with no knowledge of what was next. And all of a sudden, we had this, I said, we can't talk about work anymore. We need to be talking about each other. It was uncomfortable in the beginning, but we got comfortable with sometimes sitting there silently with no phones and no conversation about work. And eventually we started talking about how each of us was feeling. Hey, how are you doing with this new career since you sold your business? Hey, what's going on with your friendships? Have you still talking to Lisa? Are you still talking to et cetera, et cetera? Hey, this thing with the kids, I really want to talk about it. Hey, you know what? I would really like it if we would spend a weekend together and catch up. We started having those uncomfortable conversations that now have become comfortable. It took a long time, like the gym, it took a long time before they became comfortable. This idea of where is your comfort zone is super important. Couples who describe themselves as happy with their lifestyle but not intimacy, report 3 times higher risk of infidelity, says the American Journal of Sociology in 2019. 3 times higher risk of infidelity. Why is that? Because when we're feeling dissatisfied in terms of intimacy, and I want to be really clear, intimacy isn't just about doing the deed. Intimacy is about, I feel safe with you. Intimacy is about, I don't just believe I can trust you. I feel I can trust you. Intimacy is I feel safe and trust you enough to have a caring conversation, to take a risk, to expose my own insecurities, to ask you to show me yours. I feel safe and trust you enough and have caring conversations enough and feel safe enough to talk about what might be a little scary so that I can be vulnerable with you and feel like I'm being myself with you. You might be the only person. You might be the only person that I feel like I can truly be myself with. This is the safest place I know on earth. You are my best friend. That's what I'm talking about here. And when that isn't present, and that's so necessary and so vital, we yearn for it. And when we can't say to our partner, something's missing because we're pretending we've got everything good, unconsciously, we start looking for that intimacy in other places. Maybe we meet someone at work, in a coffee shop, and we kind of vibe on them and we think, well, I can be friends. And then we start trusting them. And maybe we start sharing things with them like we wish we had been sharing them with our partner. And it feels good because we yearn and miss having that BFF that I can be myself with in my home. Yeah, I have a little emotion about this. I have so been here. And the next step is once you've committed emotional infidelity, sharing things that you really should be sharing with your partner with someone else, and having an intimate experience with someone else that you really should be having at home, that opens the door for so much more. Now, I'm going to tell you, I've not been there yet. Always possible. I've helped so many couples who have been there because I have been through enough of that process to totally get it. And there is healing. For those of you who have infidelity in your life, there is healing from infidelity. You can lean into trust again, but there's a process for it that both people go through, not just the person who stepped out on their promise. And let me tell you something, that infidelity doesn't happen because one person steps out on their promise. Infidelity happens because two people stop making it safe to be vulnerable and present with each other. And each person finds some way to fulfill that need somewhere else, sometimes with another person. Sometimes infidelity shows up as spending. Sometimes it shows up as today as having a relationship with AI while you're pleasuring yourself physically. Sometimes it shows up in pornography. There's 110,000 ways to do this. And I'm telling you, there's always a possible road to healing. Sometimes it shows up as long-term involvement with prostitutes. And there's still a road to healing. She earns more than me. And even though we don't talk about it, I feel like the balance has shifted. Am I wrong? And I went through this when I sold my business. I love these questions. By the way, I did not write these questions. And it is coincidence that they come up in this order and they relate to my personal experience with this so directly. And I know this because when I sold my business, I was no longer the prime wage earner. And in fact, I'm not sure I was the prime wage earner before I sold my business because she was doing so well. At least when I had that business and I was very involved with it, I had the prospect that I was going to earn more and become the prime wage earner again. We were kind of competing for prime wage earner because guess what? There's power that comes with that. And financial success tilts the power dynamics. Make no mistake, because even though I may have shown up fixing the house with a lower income in my new career, with some of the money from selling my business contributed to the household, even though I was showing up for 110 things, supporting her in her career growth as I launched my new career, Rich in Relationship is what it became. Did not start out as that. Even though I rigorously tracked my contributions, by the way, all the money I saved us on contractors because of the things that I was doing, and I'm pretty good with my hands. I used to build houses. It's just damn good luck that it worked out that way. Even though all that was going on, the fact of the matter is that the bills, the mortgage, the taxes, the food, for the most part, were being paid by who? The prime wage earner. And when you supporting the survival, which is equated with roof over your head and food on the table, when you are paying the bulk of those bills, you've got more power. Don't feel like cooking tonight because you're tired? No problem. You're the prime wage earner. That can become a habit. And those of us who have not prime wage earners need to learn how to advocate for ourselves and make sure that that power imbalance financially is equalized in other areas. So women earning more can create a subtle resentment. And I promise you from personal experience, there is an identity strain. And it is a good identity strain. For me as a man, it was awesome, painful to come against, oh my God, I am not the guy I think I'm supposed to be. I was raised to be. And even though in my intellect, I knew it is totally fine for a woman to out earn a man because women are equal to men. And I knew I was contributing personally and continued to, even though I knew all that, my training, my bias was otherwise. And I got to confront that. And guys, The statistics show that 30% of you are living in a household, 29% of you are living in a household where you're being out earned or even supported by your wife, and you're going to come up against this, and don't deny it. Right? Embrace it, look at it, excavate it. As I record this, it is we're about to go into Yom Kippur. In a few hours, I will be fasting and going before heaven with my defects of character, with my sins, if you will have it. And one of them is my misogynistic bias towards, I should be the prime wage earner. What kind of a man am I? I surrender this. I surrender it. Take it from me. That's what this is about. Whether you have religious practices or not, it's still the same thing. It's about unearthing these things and giving them up because they do not serve us. And there's all kinds of ways of releasing old emotions and old beliefs that no longer serve us, things that we were raised in that do not work for us. The other side of that is husbands often dominate the long-term financial decision-making, even when they aren't the prime earners. Approximately 70% of men do. And there's a process there for women. My partner has gotten very good with financial decision making. We do share a lot of the financial decision making, even though she's the prime wage earner. And I'm making sure that everything is even in terms of decision making and influence and understanding of where we are and where we're going to put our resources, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Kind of where you want to go with this. All right, so let's keep going with this topic. If everything's looking good, how do we even know something's wrong? Success creates a cover. That's the whole story. My wife and I had all kinds of success, and there was this cover. Look at what we've achieved. We must be fine. Our kids are going to good schools. Our kids are launched and look at us. We are freaking amazing. And social media rewards that. Now, we weren't big participants in social media, but social media and social circles kind of reward that. We all need to get that screens, social media, movies, shows, you name it, the newspapers, everything that we're being presented touts materialism. And then the few things that are about spirituality slam materialism. And I want to be really clear. There is nothing wrong with materialism. There's nothing wrong with having a nice house and a beautiful car. I still live in the same house. My financial circumstances haven't changed. Our focus has changed. All right. So we don't need to slam materialism. And we don't, and say, look at how spiritual we are. And we don't need to slam spirituality, which is really about connection, by the way. If we threw out that word spirituality and just went with connection, you don't need to slam connection to it with ourselves, with our partners, with other people, so that we can have more materialism. We don't want to just be rich in relationship. We want to be rich and prosperous in every facet of our life. When everything's good on the outside, and we don't know if something's wrong, it's because we aren't looking. We're so busy doing that we're not looking at how we're being. So let me tell you my story again. I was a person who was doing all the time, doing. I could have the right things, had some beautiful clothes then, still have some beautiful clothes. And when I had the right things, I felt I must be happy. For me, it was do, have, be. But in real life, when we're creating, it starts out with how we're being. So if we're doing, having, and we're not sure how we're being, or we're thinking we should be being because we've been doing and having, I tell you right now, something's wrong. The starting point is, how do we feel today? How are we being? Are we being happy? Are we being sad? If we're being sad, why might we be sad? Are we sad because we're engaged in a career that isn't really fulfilling our sense of purpose truly and utterly and completely? Or are we sad because maybe we've just lost someone and it's appropriate sadness? It's all appropriate sadness, really. The question is, if we're sad, where's it coming from? What's it about? And the tendency in our culture is to say, oh, you're sad. You must be depressed. I think if I had gone to a therapist at that time in my life, that I might have gotten diagnosed with depression, even though I was active and engaged and functional, blah, 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 blah. Because long-term sadness is often confused for depression. But long-term sadness is really just that. It's unresolved, unexperienced sadness. And so the way that we know is when we stop and take the time to be. and see how am I feeling without doing. Then from phones, unplugging from screens, unplugging from responsibilities. It's hard to imagine. It was hard for me to imagine at the time. The strain is often invisible until crisis hits, an affair, emotional breakdown, divorce talk, physical illness. How do we make sure our success makes us stronger instead of covering cracks? This is a fabulous question. It's about our identity. What's our success? What are we defining as success? Today, and I dare say my partner, define success first as, am I caring for the organism? Am I caring for my mind? Am I caring for my connections to each other and to others? It's like mind, body, spirit. Next, in caring for those things, am I fulfilling the needs of these things? Are we developing our innate skills into talents? Are we expanding our talents? And what are we doing with those skills and talents? Do we feel that through those skills and talents, we are giving back as well as receiving? Or are we doing it just to receive? Right? My focus 8 years ago was, give it to me. I'm doing this for you. Give it to me. Make me feel good. Pay me. Make me feel good. Today, I was thinking about it. I have over 350 episodes. We must be going on 400 episodes of Rich in Relationship, for which we've never monetized this podcast. And the whole purpose of the podcast is simply to help people. And the benefit of the podcast for me is I get to do something that's fun. I get to talk about something that's important. I get to help people. And honestly, people call and we do receive people that we can help as clients through the podcast. But that's not the purpose of the podcast. The purpose of the podcast is to develop this concept of what does it mean to be rich in relationship? And this question of when success hides strain is at the heart of this issue of how to be rich in relationship. We want to develop our personal identities. We want to develop our partnership, not just so that it's a functional business partnership, so that we have that sense of intimacy that I was telling you about, so that when I am with my partner, I know that it's safe. When I'm with my partner and she knows or he knows, depending on who you are and who you're with, that it's safe, that you and they feel okay. Wrinkles, farts, warts, fat, lack of muscle, whatever your personal criticism is, whatever it is, you're okay with each other. Not only are you okay with each other, but you see, just like when you were in love, I see in my partner who she is becoming. And I see how she's fulfilled even that who she is becoming that I saw in her when we first fell in love. Even though we're not, that in love thing is short term, that vision of her being her fullest, most complete, fulfilled human being, I still see her that way. And she basks in that vision I have for her as I bask in her vision for me. And the purpose of our marriage is the purpose of the marriage is not the intimacy. The intimacy is the vehicle for supporting one another in becoming that vision of greatness and fulfillment that we see in one another. The purpose of the marriage is to support your individual development. The purpose of the marriage is to support the family. The purpose of the marriage is to support your shared long-term vision. That is true relationship success. And when you live in that space, the power disparities fall away. Do they go away forever? No. Does the prime wage earner sometimes come home and say, that's a nice jacket. How did you pay for that? Absolutely. Does the prime home caregiver, let's call that person, whether they're taking care of children at home or whatever, not say, when are you going to empty the dishwasher? Absolutely. That crap still goes on, right? Because we're imperfect people. But the point is that we're growing. The point is that we are seeking to practice, that we're developing and living to our principles. The point is that we are seeking progress over perfection. Hey, if you like what you're hearing here, I want you to please subscribe. Let us know. Our subscription base has been growing and growing. Keep it going and going and going. And in the meantime, have an awesome day and a wonderful tomorrow.